Good morning. I will now call the May 11th, 2022 regular meeting to order. Let me ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that we do have one supervisor who is participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be handled by a roll call vote. With that, I will now call the roll. Supervisor Anderson. Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Here.
Supervisor Desmond. Here. Vice Chair Vargas.
Vargas here.
Chair Fletcher.
Fletcher here. First on the agenda is non-agendized public communication. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on matters within our jurisdiction but are not on today's agenda. The only action the board may take is a referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. A reminder, according to Rule 4A, members of the public that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will be allotted extra time to allow for translation. According to our rules of procedure, we will have 5 speakers in person and 5 via phone. The rest of non-agendized public speakers will be heard at the conclusion of our board meeting. I'll ask the clerk at this time to call forward up to 5 in person and 5 virtual speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We do have 16 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 5 in person and 11 by phone. For those that have requested to speak via phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. You'll then have 2 minutes to address the board. I'd like to invite forward the following individuals: Summer Light, Robert German, Tim Coots, Audra, and Dr. Pamela Perry. And if you could please state your name before beginning your comments.
My name is Summer Light, reporting on the San Marcos landfill. In 2005, the Board of Supervisors voted to spend $350,000 to have the San Marcos landfill blend in with the surrounding communities, and we are grateful. In May of 2021, DPW dumped excessive amounts of asphalt on buffer land. This land was designated in the San Elijo Specific Plan Amendment to be open space, a natural wildlife preserve. In September 2021, Supervisor Desmond requested this eyesore be landscaped. In the process, some asphalt was removed, and we are grateful. Thank you, Mr. Desmond. But much still remains. If Supervisor Desmond and Supervisor Lawson-Remer, who represents Elfin Forest, would let the homeowners show you firsthand the truth of this project and explain clearly what's going on, you will see that it's a disgrace and how it will continue to cost taxpayers more unnecessary expenses. It was very illogical. The only logic is that DPW needed a place to dump the reclaimed asphalt that was brought into the landfill. It's not right what was done. The San Elijo Hills community, the Elfin Forest community, the local hikers, we will not rest until all this asphalt is removed. And you, Supervisor Desmond and Lawson-Remer, are the ones who can make it happen. Please help us.
I understand what DPW is going to be able to meet with Summer here today.
Yes, Supervisor Jeff Moneta is here in the board chamber, and I believe you also connected prior to the meeting, but they'll be happy to speak with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Robert German. I brought a slide. It's self-explanatory. Are there any questions? I would like to point out the purple line is the 2 rail lines side by side, parallel, that go into Miramar Airport, MCAS. The green lines are the interstate and the state highways that are the boundaries, basically, of Miramar. What a perfect place for a world airport. A lot better than Lindbergh that just services the convention center and the tourists. A public airport is supposed to be for the public. That means North County, East County, South County, with easy access. That's the 50-year plan. You're going to be 10 years building this thing down here, and then you want to go to the state or the feds and ask for another 20 million, 20 billion to build another airport? You can't go to the well too many times. And I hope to be around for the next 20 years, even if I'm down here with my little walker pointing out that you guys are going down the wrong road here. Imagine what you could do with the property down here in the bay. MCAS could get down here, protect the harbor. If the Marines don't want to come down here and protect the harbor, you could do a marina. You could bring the Chargers back with a stadium. NFL is the biggest entertainment venue in the nation, and they're working on the world. And you want to stick all this money, $4 billion, for a trolley from downtown to Lindbergh. Come on, one runway airport? That's it. I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Good morning, honorable members of the board. My name is Jim Cutts. I'm a concerned citizen and friend of property line neighbors of the San Marcos landfill. Reclaimed asphalt is made from old roads and old parking lots full of dirty oil, gasoline, and heavy metals from cars and trucks. Sounds like hazardous waste, especially when you consider that these toxic materials are located uphill at a 35 to 45 degree angle within 15 to 20 feet away from the property lines. Stormwater rushes downhill onto the neighbor's land. Some of these neighbors grow organic avocados and lemons for commercial sale. These are also parcels with family homes. A quote from Worcester Polytechnic Institute: "Dust and hydrocarbon from reclaimed asphalt can cause silicosis, which is an incurable form of lung cancer." There are numerous other scientific studies that document many other health problems as well. This parcel was legally designated to remain untouched, open space, and a natural wildlife preserve. Firefighter David Vaucanu states, "I can assure you that this road they put in was not necessary and made weed abatement more difficult. Also, the straw rules in place to catch asphalt are themselves a fire hazard. We have an opportunity to correct a big mistake. Let's get that poison out of there. All this unnecessary toxic asphalt needs to be removed from buffer land and placed on the other side."
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Pamela Perry. I am speaking in support of removing the reclaimed asphalt that the San Marcos landfill management dumped and spread on the buffer land located between the landfill and the surrounding community properties. In August of 2021, I was part of a petition signing event supported by scientist environmentalist Tiffany Boyd Hodgson, who is supporting our community in getting all of this asphalt removed from the buffer land. I will read the petition now, being signed by more and more members in our community. The petition reads, "On May 2021, DPW dumped excessive amounts of reclaimed asphalt particles, which are known to contain trash, oil, lead, and other toxins on land set specifically and legally aside to be a natural wildlife preserve and buffer to protect the surrounding communities from the toxins, truck activity, smells, and unsightliness of the San Marcos landfill. While some of the particles have recently been removed, the problem is still far from resolved. That is because most of the asphalt particles still there are beginning to leach into nearby soils, roll into the buffer waterways, and it is still an eyesore for homeowners and hikers. It all needs to be removed. With all the asphalt road that remains, plus the fire hazardous straw rolls and sandbags DPW placed along the road to support it, it will take the landfill much more time to accomplish their job of weed abatement that for the previous 20 years had been a simple mowing job done only once a year. An asphalt road was never necessary to accomplish this task of fire protection, and now needlessly wastes our money. Why is it important for us to have it removed? Because it is polluting our community land and waterways, ruining our views, threatening our wildlife, just the opposite of the purpose the buffer was meant to mandate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Audra, hello again. It's interesting, the state that we're in, where there's such a disconnect with what's right and what's really going on. Because you can arrest people for being in here and speaking their mind, yet everything that you guys are doing is illegal. I can be assaulted by your staff, Nathan, James Canning, and nothing happens. He wasn't even arrested, and the sheriffs were supposed to do a citizen's arrest, but I can be taken to Las Colinas, or, you know, an attorney can as well for clapping. But I'll promise you this, I will always fight for freedom. I would rather die fighting for freedom than let evil triumph. So I will stand in the gap for freedom because you guys think that it's a joke. And you're on the wrong side of history because of what you're doing to this county. All you care about is money and how much money you're gonna get. You guys talk about seeking funds and just getting all the funds that you can, and nothing gets better. Everything continues to get worse, and you don't even care. People will come in here and tell you what they want, and you just sit there and stare at your computer or bite on a frickin' highlighter. And it's just sad. Because people are fighting for their lives, for their freedom, for their families, for the future generations, and you don't even care. You don't see that. And that's okay, because at one point you will be on this side, begging for the same. And you will meet our Creator and be begging Him for the same. And the way that you're treating people, He will turn you away.
Ms. Morgan, your comments related to my staff is a false statement. It is a matter of fact, not opinion. The things that you're stating are being publicly made, and they cause damage to the individual involved, and I think you should be wise.
Are you kidding
to
me?
not make false and slanderous statements against an individual.
It
Your
is
time
on
has expired.
tape?
Please sit down.
I was assaulted
Your conduct
by
is
him.
disrupting
You're
the
doing
functioning
this
of the
on
meeting.
purpose.
First time, sit down.
I am not lying about that. And
Your conduct and outbursts are disrupting the conduct of the meeting. Second warning, please sit down.
Freaking jail again.
Please sit down. Next speaker.
Thank you. Now we will hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, we will be hearing from the first 5 callers. The remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We will begin with our first caller. Again, please state your name before beginning your comments.
Hi, good morning, Board of Supervisors. This is KB Strange. As a pharmacist practicing in the unincorporated area of District 5, I see every day how smoking and vaping weaken lungs and accelerates health declines. It's been 12 years since 2010 that the County Board of Supervisors developed their Live Well vision for our county. A centerpiece to the Live Well vision were 3 goals. 1, improve nutrition for the county's citizens. 2, increase physical activity. And 3, to decrease tobacco use. It was in response to statistics that we're finding that throughout our nation, these 3 behaviors, poor nutrition, lack of physical activity, and tobacco use, were contributing to 4 major diseases: heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and respiratory conditions, that together, these 4 diseases result in over 50% of all deaths in our nation. Today, I would like to thank you, the board members, for adopting a flavored tobacco ban here in the county's areas that we all hope reduces e-cigarette and tobacco use in this county as it has for other cities and counties. That ban provides the tobacco marketplace of their most lucrative and desirable customers. That's the young people, the only people that they aim their products at with their candy-flavored e-cigs and vapes. So in conclusion, I'd like to ask the Board of Supervisors, staff, and listeners to come with me and consider the value of taking one more step to remove young people as targets and add a flavored marijuana products ban from the marketplace as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Consuelo. We are fast approaching the stage of the ultimate inversion, the stage where government is free to do anything it pleases, while the citizens may act only by permission, which is the stage of the darkest periods of human history, the stage of rule by brute force. Ayn Rand. They make us pay for the water we drink. Who they buy the water from? The food we eat that grows on the land abundant and plentiful. Who they buy the land it grows on from? We pay for their wars they need, for the crimes they commit. They have us dedicate the most important part of our lives to them. They give us wages and tell us it allows for us to buy us things and pay for our needs, to make them even richer. They call this freedom. Stop thinking anyone has the right to rule you. Stop talking as if anyone has the right to rule you. Stop acting as if anyone has the right to rule you. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. It's time to unlearn the shit that you were taught by people who didn't know shit but expected you to follow their shit. It's time we rise and stop taking their shit. It's time we take responsibility. It's time we own that shit, because remember, they are full of shit. I have no respect for you, Nathan Fletcher. Any of the board members, none.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
My name is Diane Grace. I come here as a very concerned mother, grandmother, and health prevention advocate. Last week, one of the weekly publications in the unincorporated area published an article which wrote about teaching and working with teens, using this opportunity to answer and clarify their questions. Quote, when marijuana comes up in class, I hear teens repeat many misconceptions and truths, that marijuana is safe because it's natural, that it's not as dangerous as other drugs, and that it can help with anxiety, depression, and insomnia. These misconceptions aren't just wrong, they're dangerous for teens. A National Institute of Health study analyzed a survey of over 280,000 young adults aged 18 to 35, showing that marijuana use was associated with an increased risk of suicide, a suicide plan, and a suicide attempt. In 2020, the San Diego County Medical Examiner reported 39% of completed suicides in ages under 25 tested positive for THC, more than for tobacco. End of quote. Smoking and vaping were the most common ways teens use marijuana. It took decades for health officials, regulators, or political leaders to take serious action to prevent youth tobacco use. Parents are saddened that it may take decades before we see serious action to prevent marijuana use. Maybe our county can eradicate the youth problems I mentioned first, but perhaps it could mitigate them by adding a flavored marijuana product to the county's ban on flavored tobacco products, as already stated today by Casey Strange. Thank you for your attention.
We'll go to our next caller.
Good morning. My name is Michael Hill, and I'm here as a father and grandfather. I am passionate about protecting children from drug use that short-circuits their journey to adulthood faster than any other problem. I noticed that yesterday while I was at work, the board discussed a tax for marijuana businesses present and future. I certainly feel that is way overdue to tax the present 5 operating marijuana retail operations. However, the reason I called in for the public comment today is that I noticed that the staff report and the report from the HDL both mention that one of the main reasons we need marijuana businesses in the unincorporated areas is to eliminate or reduce the black market that has been rampant there. Well, a recent article entitled "The California's Legal Weed Industry Can't Compete with Illicit Market" came to 4 conclusions. Number 1, the underground market in California is far too entrenched with dealer-customer arrangements going back decades. Number 2, Department of Cannabis Control, DCC, has no enforcement mandate from state legislature. Number 3, penalties on illegal marijuana businesses of a misdemeanor and a $500 fine is simply too low to dissuade illicit activity. And number 4, local enforcement agencies are stymied by lack of adjudication of the streets of unpermitted business owners. Are we just using the black market as a reason to permit more marijuana businesses in the unincorporated areas as a smokescreen for making money off addiction and disease? Thank you.
Thank you. We will go to our 10th and final speaker.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle. I wanted to continue some thoughts from yesterday's comments regarding that yesterday was National Fentanyl Awareness Day. I wanted to bring to you some terminology from the public health world, from the parent world, and the prevention field regarding fentanyl. Fentanyl is a potent synthetic opioid drug approved by the FDA for pain relief and as an anesthetic. When prescribed by the doctor, fentanyl can be given as a shot, used as a patch, or given as lozenges. However, if it's used inappropriately and abused for its feelings of euphoria, it can result in an overdose, or sometimes used in death by suicide. And it can be added by unscrupulous manufacturers to drugs like heroin and cocaine, and to look-alike pharmaceutical drugs like OxyContin, thus purchased illegally and unknowingly consumed, and then we call it a poison. However, it can be added to prescription look-alike drugs bought illegally by young people and unknowingly that look like Xanax and Adderall or placed on marijuana products. Then we in the parent community feel that it is murder. We appreciate the recent California court cases that have charged second-degree murder based on the theory of implied malice. There's a lot that we ask ourselves in the prevention community regarding the choice that young people make to use and buy illegally Adderall, Xanax, and marijuana. And we wonder how it is that we can interrupt this poor choice-making. I'd like to suggest that we need to reduce the advertising, the acceptability, the availability of marijuana products as a first step, and not increase the foothold of marijuana sales in the unincorporated area of the county.
Thank you. For the remaining callers that requested to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, if you could please hang up and call back at the conclusion of the session. Chair Fletcher, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning.
Next on our agenda is approval of the statement of proceedings minutes for the regular meeting of April 27th, 2022. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? A motion by myself, second by Supervisor Anderson. Please vote.
We'll be holding roll call vote today.
Got it.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson? Aye. Supervisor Lawson-Remer?
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Vargas? Chair Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
That motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
We'll now proceed with the formation of the consent calendar. Members of the public will be able to comment on the consent calendar after the supervisors have the opportunity to make remarks and pull any items for discussion. I'll start with Supervisor Anderson. Any items you wish pulled or comments you wish to make?
Not at this time, thank you.
Supervisor Lawson-Remer?
Nope, sorry, thank you. No comments.
Great. Supervisor Desmond?
Yeah, I'd like to pull item 2 just to vote on it separately, and I'll make a motion to approve item 1 or on the agenda, or on the consent.
All right. So you're making a motion to approve item 1?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, is that on consent? Yeah.
1 and 2 are on consent.
Yeah, so for the balance of the consent calendar.
All right, perfect. And we don't need separate votes?
Yeah, I'd like separate votes on 2.
Separate votes, okay. All right, we have a motion. Vice Chair Vargas.
Yes, I'm happy to second the motion, but I just wanted to say thank you on item number 1 to the Department of Public Works for all the work on this particular issue and the Traffic Advisory Committee. This is a really, really important stop sign on Janelle Way and Proctor Valley Road for my community, and we're really excited to bring the necessary stop sign. I mean, this is the work on the ground that is really important for the community, particularly in Benitez, so I really appreciate it, and I urge my colleagues support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We have a motion by Supervisor Desmond, second by Vice Chair Vargas to approve the consent calendar. We will first vote on agenda item number 1 on consent. This will just be a vote on number 1. Ask the clerk to please call the roll. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's hear from our speakers on consent.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We do have 3 total requests to speak on items on the consent calendar, 1 individual in person and 2 that are requesting to speak by phone. I'd also like to note for the record, we had 1 individual register their support for item 1, but did not wish to address the board. Any members of the public that have requested to speak on the phone, if you could, excuse me, any members of the public that requested to speak on the items on the consent calendar, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speaker, and I'd like to invite forward Audra. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. If you could please begin by stating your name for the record.
Are you going to turn it? Everything you want to do with the unincorporated areas is disturbing because you want to close roads and make sure that people can't access things. You talk about the subcontractor transparency program for county permits. You're allowing right-of-way access to different properties, so anybody just can come on the property, right? Yeah. And you talk about safety and legal compliance. You guys can't even be held accountable, but you're going to hold everybody else accountable. How are you going to do that if your own ethics and morals are corrupt? It's a little confusing. Are you going to bring somebody else in that's actually on the right side of things, or, you know, you're just going to tell people that they're liars when you are? James Eugene Canning assaulted me.
I'm going to tell you right now.
I'm going to tell you.
No, stop. You can criticize the board members all you want, and you can say whatever you want about us, but he did not. Your comments are slanderous. You are making a false statement.
Lying.
It is a matter of fact,
you
not opinion.
Are making
it's
a false statement.
An individual. You're sharing it to a third party, and it causes damages.
It caused damage to me. My arm is still injured.
And you were slandering a member of the staff. So you're
a liar.
Continue to do this. You're
you
off
are
topic,
lying.
41. You're
lying.
42.
You're lying.
Your time has been forfeited. Take a seat.
You're a liar. You're a coward.
Now we will hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I would like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we will begin with our first caller.
Truth. Item 1. On 2B, the closure of Mass Boulevard and Lakeside, instead of using the dead end as a turnaround, drivers end up using Pinery Grove, a residential street. If a road vacation is implemented, I hope it's the neighbors who control the road and not neighboring PepsiCo. On 4A, the closure of White Blackstone Road in Spring Valley. Is there really that much crime to warrant a never-ending closure? It's just a nice residential area. All three of these closures shouldn't be happening as these are public roads, as in the public is paying for them, so they all need to be open at all times. On 1A and 1B, there are two always stop signs being put on two different streets in Bonita. Always stop signs are being erected all over the country and have already created dangerous traffic problems. For example, in Traverse City, the always stop signs cause new bumper-to-bumper traffic and blocked emergency vehicles from getting through. And in West Seattle, always stop signs cause drivers to not stop at all, but instead roll through, putting pedestrians at risk. Most drivers can't even figure out who has the right-of-way at these always stops. Anyone curious should look up always stop signs, and you'll see just how confusing they are. For the streets in Bonita, I would suggest instead speed bumps. Even though they're really annoying, would be a better option for the safety of both drivers and for residents walking their neighborhood. Always stop signs only make it more frustrating and dangerous to drive by causing confusion and adding congestion. The reason for these unsafe always stop signs is the Board of Supervisors decarbonization framework and Sandag's regional plan, both of which are against people driving and owning cars.
And thank you. Chair Fletcher, that does conclude public comment on the items on the consent calendar.
All right, thank you. We have a motion by Supervisor Desmond, seconded by Vice Chair Vargas. We will first vote on item 1, Traffic Advisory Committee. This will just be on item 1. Ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. Supervisor Anderson?
Aye.
Supervisor Lawson-Remer?
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Vargas?
Vargas, aye.
Chair Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
That motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
We will now call the roll on item 2, subcontractor transparency.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. Supervisor Anderson?
Aye.
Supervisor Lawson-Remer?
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond?
No.
Vice Chair Vargas? Chair Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with Supervisor Desmond voting no, all their supervisors being present voting aye.
We'll go to agenda item number 3, hearing for Ramona Grasslands County Preserve. Let me ask the clerk, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ask the clerk, call forward the speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We do have 2 total requests to speak on this item, 1 individual in person and 1 requesting to speak by phone. Also like to note for the record, we did not receive any e-comments on this item. For any members of the public that have requested to speak on this item by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. I'd like to invite forward Audra Morgan. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please begin by stating your name for the record.
My last name, but that's fine. So you want to acquire 228 acres. And, you know, you've already got, what, 56,000 acres? How many acres are you going to acquire for your whole Agenda 2030 plan? Yeah, and you think that that 228 acres is going to reduce the greenhouse gases by 290 metric tons? For real? You know that we're carbon-based, so you get rid of carbon and then, you know, there's no living things. So your whole plan for, you know, climate, protecting the earth is totally bullshit. I mean, and it's a way for you guys to just keep getting money and then nothing is going to be done. You don't even know if people are going to be accessing that. So you're just going to keep it so that you can, you know, preserve kangaroo rats, arroyo toads, and coastal Cali gnat catchers. Interesting. So we're spending lots of money on bullshit. Everything you do is bullshit. And you know what? I actually have my own radio show, so I will tell the world the truth that you're trying to hide, Nathan. And again, James Canning assaulted me.
Your comments are off topic.
No, it's not.
Your comments are off topic. Second warning.
What are you going to do?
Your comments are off topic. Your time is forfeited. Next speaker. Turn the mic off. Next speaker.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted.
Please
and
take
you'll-
a seat. Please take a seat. Your time has expired. You take a seat. Your conduct is disturbing the proceeding of the meeting. I'm asking the deputies to please remove Ms. Morgan from the chambers. Board will take a momentary recess. I'll ask the deputies to remove Ms. Morgan from the chambers. All right, board will take a brief recess. the clerk to call forward the remaining speakers on item 3.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll just take a brief moment to allow that caller to call in. And again, if any members of the public that have requested to speak by phone on this item, item 3, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. And Chair Fletcher, not seeing any movement in the call-in system, so that's going to conclude public comment on this item.
We have a motion by myself, second by Vice Chair Vargas. Please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. Supervisor Anderson. Aye. Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond.
Aye.
Vice Chair Vargas. Chair Fletcher.
Fletcher, aye.
That motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present, voting aye.
We will now resume non-agendized public communication. Ask the clerk to call forward the remaining non-agendized public speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We do still have 6 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, all coming by phone. For those that have requested to speak via phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll begin with our first caller, and again, if you could please state your name before beginning your comments.
Truth. You know, in order to take a call, you have to actually wait for the call. It takes a little bit of time. You totally skip my item 3 comment, so I'm going to say it. Forget Shamu, save the rat. This item is yet another land grab by these supervisors. The excuses this time are the sage scrub, Stevens kangaroo rat, the arroyo toad, and the coastal gnatcatcher bird. Apparently, the gnatcatcher bird and the Stephen kangaroo rat aren't even considered endangered. Maybe they're just extra cute. I looked them up. Not really. And I actually like rats. Not the human kind, of course, Nathan. The Ramona Grasslands County Preserve is already 3,600 acres. But apparently that's not big enough. They're adding 228 acres more. And the cost? A total of over $1 million of taxpayer money, plus about $65,000 annually for property management. The unincorporated areas of the county now have 3 multiple species conservation areas, including the future East County plan. So that means even more money spent and more land taken away in the near future. My guess for the next excuse, if it was for a coastal area, would have been itchy algae. Using the multiple species conservation plan, the county has spent $221 million so far to acquire over 25,000 acres of land. They're becoming big-time land monopolists, just like Bill Gates. It's a putrid stench of the United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development Plan, which in part aims to take away as much land as possible from people to live on. Forget dolphins. Save the toad, ribbit.
Thank you. And Chair Fletcher, not seeing any other callers calling in, that concludes requests for non-agenda public communication this morning.
That concludes the business before the board today. We stand adjourned.
The next meeting of the Board of Supervisors will be the group budget presentations on Thursday, May 19th and Friday, May 20th at 9 a.m. when the board will receive presentations by select departments regarding the fiscal years 2022 to 2024 recommended operational plan. The next regular meeting of the board will take place on Tuesday, May 24th, 2022 at 9 a.m.